Art. 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 Kunst. Art.
Ever since the very first paintbrush struck the very first cave wall 45,000 years ago, art was, is, and ever shall be storytelling. We create art to tell stories. 2,500 years ago, Socrates said, "Whoever tells us stories controls the culture." And then they killed him. About 10 years ago, modern neuroscience confirmed what Socrates knew all along. It is the story that drives the perception, not the other way around. Up until recently, up until these recent discoveries, and I'd recommend a guy named Dr. Jared Hovath, if you want to look into the new neuroscience. Up until recently, scientists believed the world comes into our brain through the five senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. And the various reactions to those stimuli is how we construct our sense of reality and how we construct essentially our story. However, the opposite is true. The story already exists. Somebody put it there, or maybe you were born with it. And that story is driving your perception.
Socrates would have said that you're born with the story, but the experience of being born is so traumatic that it's like shoved deep down into your unconscious or subconscious mind. And the job of the philosopher is to get you to remember. Wisdom is really, or enlightenment, eudaimonia, is really this idea of remembering truth, not learning it, but remembering it.
Anyway, what on earth am I talking about? Let's pretend we're reading a story, and in the story, the protagonist is getting on a train and leaving town. The story says, we're leaving the train station. Can you see how the train is going away from us? Now we read a different story. Some other story is in your prefrontal cortex. And in that story, it's a story where the protagonist is returning home, like a prodigal son type of story. Do you see how now the train's coming toward us? The video didn't change. The external stimulus didn't change. Your story changed, and therefore your perception changed. Let's pretend we're reading a story about a magic box made up of translucent glass squares. So 6 sides to the box. And in the story, the green glass plate is the back of the box. Okay, now a different story. Now the green glass plate is the front of the box. Can you get the back to move to the front? So the external stimulus did not change. It's your story changed. That's why art is so important. That's why stories are so important. And when it's a great story, a truly great story, the physical and the metaphysical are brought together and transcended. So I hope you keep reading comic books, reading graphic novels, watching films, watching TV series, creating your own characters, creating your own stories. And just keep in mind, it's not just a pretty picture. It's not just a doodle in a sketchbook. You're actually practicing neuroscience. You're like a brain surgeon.
Is it a man running into the woods, or is it a dog running out of the woods? Probably depends on the story. Steve realized the serial killer had spotted him and ran frantically into the woods, or else Rufus is a good boy and heard his mom and dad call him in and came out of the woods.